Welcome to the Brandwin Sustainable Tender Business Model webinar this morning. It's good to see you all here. And I just want to do a quick introduction. Some of you may already have met me through one-to-ones or the Meet the Buyer event. And so I'm Tracy James. I'm the project manager for the programme. And as you would have known, that we've had some one-to-ones, we've had some previous webinars, and then we've got this one today and a couple more to follow on later on, which you'll find out more about at the end. So I'm joined by my colleague Charlie today, who will be delivering this webinar. So without further ado, I'll hand over to you, Charlie.
Lovely. Thank you, Tracy. So I'll just wait for a couple more people to arrive. I'm one that likes to start promptly. And if you are would like to give us your names and say hello in the chat, say hello to everybody, that would be nice. And I'll give it a minute or two longer and then we'll crack on. As Tracy has mentioned, this is part of a very extensive program designed for SMEs to help them do better, be better, and have better businesses. And so today we're going to be focusing on the idea of how do we respond to tenders and how do we do it in a way that is going to be sustainable for us and our business. And once I get going properly, we'll also look at the difference between sustainable and sustainability, but I'll come to that in a moment. So good morning, Pete. Good to see you. Thank you for putting yourself into the chat. That's lovely. Okay, so I'd like to add my welcome to that of Tracy's when she greeted us that were here at 11 o'clock. And as she said, today is all about the sustainable tender business model. And that in itself is a bit of a mouthful because it's clearly got something to do with tendering. It's clearly some sort of model that we would recommend you to use. And it's all about sustainable tendering. So to us, sustainable tendering is about the ability to give a really first-class tender response that you know you can deliver and that you can talk about eloquently in the tender and also as you move forward, as we hope you will, through the selection process. So we're working with Watford Borough Council and I'm part of Brandwin Business Support. So a bit about me. I'm not sure it's terribly interesting, but just a little bit of background that I've done lots of different types of jobs. Started at the bottom end of a large corporate, ended up managing most of Europe for it. And about 17-ish years ago, left the corporate world and have been helping SMEs ever since. As you may have heard, Tracy is the program manager for this particular program here in Watford. I've been a program manager before, I've been a facilitator, and I've done all sorts of other things. So hopefully I'd like to meet most of you later on when we get into something called a one-to-one session on another day at another time, and you'll be able to chat to me some more and learn about where I've been and the experience I have. But it's, as you can tell, I've got the grey hair. I've been around a long time and there's a few things I could share with you. Today it's in three parts, really. There's an introduction, so we'll go through this thing called the business model canvas and you will understand what that is. And during those first few slides, there's half a dozen, maybe 8 of them. What I want you to do is listen really quite carefully, because when we finish that, I will hand over to you and we'll walk through each piece of the business model canvas, giving it 2 or 3 minutes at a time. And I'll be asking you live today to get your pen and paper out and to actually have a go at answering some of the questions. I would also say, don't worry too much, because this may well be the first time you've ever come across anything like this. And later on, again, towards the end of the presentation, we'll invite you to book in for these one-to-one sessions where you'll have a one-to-one with myself or Tracy or maybe somebody else. And then you'll get to talk about these things in a lot more depth. So today, it's like a taster. And all I want you to take away from today is this sense of, wow, that is a great tool. I really want to know how to use it fluently. And if you get that from today, I'll be really happy. So that's really it. 15 minutes on the first bit, around about half an hour at the end, and then some summary and wrap up. And Tracy will come back in at the very, very end. So this is it. When you see it on a screen, you could be forgiven for thinking that it fits onto a piece of A4 paper. And there's lots of really small writing on it that we'll cover in more depth in a minute. But it's actually divided up into kind of 3 main areas. And you can divide it up in different ways, but it's a template. You can use it again and again and again. And one of its values is you can use it again and again and again. And if you've been on this webinar and you do the one-to-ones, you will learn how to do that. You won't need us, and you will be able to respond to tenders much, much better, and therefore stand to win them much more. So it's graphical, and when you go through it step by step, each piece is a small bite. And by taking a number of small bites and seeing how they interoperate, you end up with something that is massively powerful. So on the right-hand side, the red side, that's talking about outward facing. That's about you, the customer. What does the customer want? Why? Why would you want to sell it to them? Why do you think they'd be interested? And lots of those things. How do you communicate with them? So that's all the outward facing part. And in terms of the tender, the customer, is probably a single person, because if we pause to think what happens in a tender, you receive a document and it's up to you to describe yourself, your company, your product, your service in the most eloquent way possible, because you probably don't have the chance to talk to him or her. You have one tool at your fingertips, a pen, to write the answers to the tender. So the more fluently you can do this, and the more you remember to think, what does the guy know about me? Absolutely nothing. So if you don't put it in the tender document, they won't know about it. And let's say I was receiving a tender from you. What do I know about you as people here on the webinar? Absolutely nothing. So if I was to write to you or say, can you put down in the chat right now, what is it you do? Who is going to impress me the most? So if you can, tell me what you do in the chat. So on the left, we think about what and how you do something. So the right-hand side is the customer piece. That's about your promise. I promise to deliver, hopefully, what's been asked for on the tender document. Once you've made that promise, we suggest you need to cost it out. You need to understand, what do you need in some detail in order to deliver what you've promised flawlessly. And then at the bottom, it's just talking about costs. Can your costs be covered by the amount of money you charge? And the green piece in the middle that covers both pieces, both sides, the customer, is this thing called your value proposition. And you'll hear me say some quite interesting things, I hope, today. But one of them, I want you to listen very carefully. This is a Charlie squeak. Yep, a Charlie squeak. And it goes something like this. Oh, eyebrows go up, eyes go bigger. Oh, and that is a sign that I am engaging with you. Because if you can make me do that when I read your tender response, Oh, you've got me. I will read more, because the reason you respond to a tender is not to win the deal. The reason you respond to the tender is to not go on the no pile. Imagine I've got 50 tender responses coming back to me. No, no, oh, maybe. So you get that Charlie squeak and you go on the maybe pile. And that is where you then go forward to win the tender. So all you have to do in this document is be good enough to not be put on the no pile. Get on the shortlist. And if the way the tender is run is a shortlist of one, well, then that's fantastic. So now we're going to move on, and we're going to looking at how we evaluate the business model. So what you can see there on the left-hand side of the screen, that's very inwardly focused, and that's very kind of nuts and bolts. What do we do? Who do we do it to? Da, da, da. But when you sell, and which is what you're doing through a tender document, you need to be much more emotional. You need to understand, what does the buyer want? The person who's put the tender out wants you to appeal to him. Think about anything you buy. Yeah, I'm a great lover of motor car analogies. If you look at a car and it's washed and polished and super duper shiny, and it was in a garage forecourt, even if you were just passing by, you might think, oh, that looks quite nice. And if it's covered in muck and bullets and, I don't know, smell of dog hair or something, you wouldn't give it a second glance. So your tender document has to be attractive to the person reading it. So we talk about desirability. What makes it desirable to him? So I was involved quite heavily in a care home tendering exercise. What does the person who is going to receive the tender care about? How well you look after the patients, how well you do things, how you can add in to your value proposition all the good things you do. Make yourself massively desirable. But it doesn't end there. If we carry on, we go through feasibility and viability. So we need to make sure we can do it. Ideally, we will have a track record. We've done it before. And we need to make sure that when we add all the costs up, we do in fact add all the costs up so that it is viable. If we need to use outside people, we need to make sure they're available. Because if we try and book them and they say, sorry, I'm on another gig, that's a bit problematical. So the thing has to be both feasible and viable. And also, people want to know that you're not offering the same old thing that you've done for the last 20 years. By all means, be an established business. By all means, tell them that you've got 20 years of track record. But you need to be agile and adaptable and nimble. And if you can spot the things that your customer will want next, or if you can spot improvements to what would help him do what he's asking for better in the future, then you are adaptable and you are showing extra value to the person who is sending the tender. And the other thing now, which is becoming ever more important, is you can't just be a robotic machine. You can't just do what the tender wants. You have to be able to show them that you do it in a good way. Your impact on the society is positive. You're not a don't care company that, I don't know, just, I mean, I can't, it's not in my ethos to not care, but, you know, like some companies, they don't care too much about litter, or they don't care too much about how much energy they use, or they don't care too much about anything except making money. And most people, especially councils, will frown upon that, and they will expect you to match them. So when somebody sends you a tender, you look up their ESG policy, make sure that you are on a par with them, talk to them in their language, and off we go. So where we're trying to get to is, instead of people scratching their head and saying, yeah, I can do that, yeah, I can do that for a few quid, yeah, back of a fag packet, send it off. No, people want to see evidence. People want to see that you have done it. You know what you're doing. You know what you're talking about. And you show them that you are the best company. And remember, if you haven't written down why in your response document, they won't know. Yes, I appreciate there are word counts or sometimes page counts. So sometimes you have to be quite clever. But tell them what you do and make sure they know everything you do. So this next view, again, it's an order that someone suggested. You'll see that actually it's very interactive, but you can see, again, it's the same bits there. That's desirability, that's feasibility, and that's viability. And we'll go through those quickly now. And again, here, the value proposition. This bullet that's just appeared is vitally important. Because if you said to me, Charlie, what do you sell? I sell speaker time. I'm here. I sell speaker time. And it's like, nah. People aren't interested in buying Charlie's speaker time. Well, I don't even understand what that means. But if I was to tell you I'm a business growth expert with more than 50 years experience, and I will share that with you, I would expect you to start doing a little bit of Charlie squeaking there. Oh, okay. I might book a one-to-one with him then, because he's an expert and he's done this before. Huh? Oh, okay. So remember, what your customer buys when you talk to them is not necessarily the product or the service that goes out the door. They might be buying peace of mind. They might be buying something that is a lot more emotional. And although your service will deliver that, it's not what you actually sell, if you see what I mean. And so, quick example here, Uber. We all know about Uber, and if you think about using some of our terminology, what are Uber's customer segments? And they simply decided they've got two: people who need to get somewhere and people who want to earn money. So you can immediately see, oh, that's interesting, because that will be a different message for the different audiences. So you can say to the messages, for the customers, that's one message, but you give a different message to the drivers, even though your core offering is, we get people where they want to go. So, and if we move briefly through it, the value proposition, we connect people, it's easy to do, it's low cost, it's luxurious, blah, blah, blah. We know what Uber is, but this is the sort of process they would have gone through. And you can see that by dividing it up into bite-sized pieces, it becomes easier. So the green messages, those are messages for the drivers, and the grey messages, those are for the fare-paying people that want to get to where they want to go to. So next question, how do you build and maintain customer relationships? Well, you have an app, you have a rating system, and you want people to come back. What are the channels? And here, the word channel means, how do I communicate with? Because I'm the person who wants to offer something. I want to offer it to those two people or those two groups in the customer segments. So how do I get to them? How do I make sure they hear what I have to say? Now, the channel for a tender is really simple. It's the document that you send back. But when you're in a different sales situation, you can still use this whole process. But as you can see, you might have an app, you might have a website, you may go to networking meetings, you may have all sorts of channels to get to your prospective clients. And then over that side, what do they need to honor their promise? Because over here, the value proposition is their promise, the easiest, blah, 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 blah. So they need to have all of that stuff on the left-hand side. And that's very industry specific, and that really does depend on what your offering is. So we go through that and you'll see that. So we fill in some more. What does it cost them? Lots of money to get started. How do they make their money? Well, they skim off an amount per mile. So this is where I hand over to you. You take a deep breath, because we're now going to step through that. And by the time we've finished in about half an hour, you will have the bare bones of a, if you like, an early version of your business model canvas. I'm going to give you 2 minutes to go. So now is a good time to prepare. Make sure you've got a pen, ideally half a dozen bits of paper or electronic paper, whatever it is you use. And then if you go through it in this order, it's probably going to be the most successful way of completing it. So number one, customer segments. A customer segment is a target audience. And you cannot say everyone, because everyone is not a customer segment. And again, when we're talking about tenders, the customer segment is the person who will read, the procurement officer who will read your tender document, and his boss. So again, if I go back to the care home example, the person in procurement wants to know that you will do it at a good price and you are massively competent and you have a track record. But what does his boss want? What does the council who are putting the tender out want? Well, they'll want reliability. They'll want a track record of no complaints. They'll want to make sure that they can find out where any of your care workers are at any time. They want to know that you've got rock solid processes. There's rock solid complaints procedures. I don't know, but you need to think about what's in their head. What makes them tick? And quite frankly, why would they give a damn about your response? How have you unlocked them? How have you engaged with them to say, oh, that's interesting? Yeah. Almost every care company that I engaged with, I said, what do you do? We offer care services for the elderly and we're really good. Doesn't really cut it, does it? But if you say we offer on-time delivery of care services to the elderly in their own home, we always turn up on time, we wear a uniform that makes us recognizable, and we log the time and date that we enter and we leave, and we share that information with you, well, that's a bit of a different answer, isn't it? So we need to think about who is the customer segment, and we need to have laser focus on what are they interested in as part of the tender response, and what's the emotion in their head. What extra can I put in it to engage with them? So the tighter you have your segment, the quicker it will be. So, right, so go. What I'm looking for now is, you can read these notes as you go. Who is your customer? Who is your ideal customer? They need to want to buy from you. They need to want to be somebody that you want to deliver to. And usually they are a very small segment. As we say, with a tender, the segment is typically one person and one organization. So the big question is, with a tender, who sent it to you? Who's going to read your response? And what do they need at the organizational level, over and above the things they've asked for in print? So you've now got, what, 60 seconds? And then I'll move on to the next one. Tracy, can you see the chat? So that's good. So if you'd like to put any questions you would like to put in the chat, or any comments, or if there are things you're not quite sure what you can be doing, then I think we'll try and answer chat questions on the fly if we can. If not, I'll try and cover them in a few minutes at the end. Okay, so I hope you've got a good start there. You've thought about a particular customer that's a good fit for you, or a customer segment that's a good fit for you. So the second piece, the value proposition, this is massively important. And what you do is your core offering. So I said I'd like motor car analogies. If I sell cars, you would come to Charlie's car shop, garage thing. I sell nice, clean, reliable cars. That's my core offering. But my different customer segments might be people who like sports cars, people who need to walk a dog, people who need an estate car, people who like, have I said sports cars, whatever it might be, but I will divide my core offering according to my customer segments. And so I would have a different description, if you like, for each of my core segments. So if somebody walked in and they were clearly had a dog on a lead, it's unlikely that I would go in first saying, hello, would you like a sports car? I would probably offer them something with an estate car or an SUV. I might say, oh, is it a puppy? Is it an older dog? You know, can it jump up? So you're trying to find out what your customers want. You're trying to get inside their heads the whole time. And so in terms of questions to ask them, or ask yourselves, sorry, about them, what is the value? Because I'm not interested in what you deliver. You sell cars. So what? There's 1,000,001 places that sell cars. Do you sell the sort of car I want? I don't know yet. I haven't asked you any questions. You haven't told me anything about yourself. And also, what problem or problems do you actively solve for the customer? Because when we buy something, unless it's, you know, literally for fun, we are solving a problem, either one which is causing us difficulties or something that we just want to go away. For instance, we go to a supermarket, we buy food because we need to eat. We go to a restaurant because perhaps we're feeling a little bit flush, perhaps we're going to celebrate something. So unless you understand the benefit to your customer, you will not be able to engage with them. They need to understand why it is a good idea to come to you. And if you simply say, I'm an IT company, we do computer repairs and we're jolly good at it, and da, 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 you have not engaged at the emotional level. You haven't told them how wonderful your 24/7 service is. You haven't told them that, in fact, with their permission, you will monitor all of their computers and you'll fix them before they even know they've gone wrong. So, you know, the way you express what you do and the language you use is massively important. So 60 seconds now, what is your value proposition? And the big question to ask, what are they asking for? What are they asking you for? And is it something that you can actually provide? And if you can provide it, what are the other benefits to them? Example, care home tender again. There was a company that said, we'll put in a super duper new phone system for you. And I said, yeah, and it was, he used all sorts of jargon. It's voice over repeat. It's all in the internet and it's all yada, yada, yada. But the benefits were, if your mum or dad goes in there, they can take their home phone number with them and it will ring in their room at the care home. So all their friends who may not even know they've moved to the care home still ring the number they've got in their funny little old Rolodex thing, and they will still get through to the person they want to speak to. So that person is less scared to move into the care home. The voice over IP system will also clock the staff in and out, so they know where the staff are, who's in and who's out, and it will also control the door lock. So if you haven't got a staff card, you can't get out. Therefore, the older people who are with dementia and who might go wandering around trying door locks will remain secure. Well, who would have thought of that from a telephone system? So if you can't specify the benefits, what is it they will get from using your product over and above what they work for, you're less likely to succeed. So, what is your value? This is quite a thorny one. Revenue streams. No company works without getting an income. And if you operate a company with high overheads because you're offering a particular type or quality of service, then that needs to be matched by your customers. Because very bluntly, if you don't charge your customers enough to cover your overheads, you'll go bust. And also, if you can think about, can I get customers to come back again and again and again? And this is something that you can do with a tender as well, because in a minute, we'll talk about customer relationships and we'll show you how that can be done. Because a lot of people seem to think that, well, I'll respond to a tender, I'll whack it in and hope for the best. And if I don't get any more business, well, that's tough, somebody else won it. But if you understand the value that your customer is looking for, like security at an old people's care home, like being able to connect them with their friends and relatives, if you understand the value that they are prepared to offer, if it's over and above what was demanded in a tender, you quote a lower price for what they've asked for, and you say, but we would recommend that you consider this and this and this and this, because it will give you the following benefits. Because you're likely to get one of those Charlie squeaks. Oh, well, I didn't know that was available from a phone system. Wow, it's all integrated. They're definitely on the maybe pile. I need to talk to them some more and understand how much the uplift is in cost or whatever. So make really sure that you understand the value and also understand how do they normally pay. Are they good payers, bad payers? Will they pay a lump sum up front? Is it a tender where the service goes on over a long period of time, which most are? So do you want to offer them quarterly payments? Do you want to offer them monthly standing order? Do they demand that they pay you up front? If they demand they pay you up front, can you give them a prompt payment discount? And actually, for instance, Hillingdon Council, that's now mandatory, that they will ask you, if we can pay you quickly, will you give us a prompt payment discount? So they're now doing that to help cash flow and to help SMEs like you. And also understand, what will this do to your business? Will it have a massive effect and double or treble the size of your business? Because at one level, that's fantastically good news. Wow, it's fantastically great tender. It's going to work wonders for our revenues. But you need to be careful if it's going to be more than typically 25 or 30% of your business. So we need to consider the big questions. Can they afford what I want to charge them? Because most tender documents, especially public sector ones, will have a ceiling. This is the maximum you can charge. And if you go over that, we won't even look at your response. So you need to be very careful and say, well, it'd be nice to win it, but we can't win it at their price. So don't even waste time. Put your time to more profitable use. And what do they value more? Because most tenders will say price is important, but so is quality. And so you need to put a blend in there. How much do they care? Can you systemize your processes so that you reduce your cost? And perhaps you might say, well, we can, but it's not the same as when people do it. The quality is not quite there. If they're more interested in price than quality, and you've extracted that from the tender information, and especially if you have a relationship with them before the tender comes out, you will understand how to pitch your pricing. So, channels. We've said a channel is a communication pipe. It can be a website, it can be an email, it can be a phone call, it can be almost anything. It can be a printed flyer that you hand out to people in the supermarket. But the channel is how you communicate and how do your goods travel if you win the tender. So if you have what's called a direct channel, that means everything is controlled by you, which should be a good thing. But the downside of that is, if you run everything yourself, absolutely everything, sales, marketing, deliveries and everything, it's likely to be a more expensive way to deliver and to communicate. Whereas if you use third-party channels, which is effectively what a website is, because somebody else has built the website, your computer system hosts it, and people can go in kind of without bothering you, without you putting in more costly effort. If you think about physical goods, one of the best known distribution systems is Amazon, and they can offer you a done for you service, so that Amazon literally send a truck to your company, fill it up with your goods, it goes to an Amazon warehouse, and then people could choose to buy your goods and services. So again, think about what's the most cost-effective way of doing it. Who can I rely on? Who can I trust? Who can I know will do a good job if I choose to subcontract it to them? And the flip side of it is the top ones. What do I need to have control of? Do I need to employ my own salespeople? Or can I employ salespeople who are on commission only? And again, as part of the tendering process, we're a bit beyond that. But for any other marketing and sales, you would need to consider, how do you communicate with your prospects? So the smaller questions, through which channels, where do our clients or customers kind of hang out? Where do we expect them to be? And how do we reach out to them now? Do our channels work together? I mean, if you ever look at LinkedIn, you'll tell you should do LinkedIn advertising, you should do this, you should do that, and one thing should follow the other. Well, yes, that's true, but you don't necessarily have to give your money to LinkedIn. There are other ways. Can you measure the success of this? Again, less related to the tenders, but as you do more than one tender, you'll be able to reflect back on, how well did I do? Because most organizations that you tender to will give you a score and say, I'm awfully sorry, we weren't happy with that question, that. So you scored low there. And you might want to say, oh, but I obviously haven't expressed myself well enough. We'll take that as learning for next time. So that next time you do a tender, you can say, we need to express ourselves differently. Last time they didn't get it. We could do it to the level they wanted, but we just didn't convey it well enough in the tender document. So yeah, a tender response is a channel. And yes, you only have one shot. You only have one tool, a pen, a keyboard. So remember what I said earlier. The objective of responding to the tender is to get on the maybe pile. So not much for you to do there. Just be aware of how it all works. So customer relationships. When you have customers, typically not in terms of tendering, but customers can walk in and they can buy something, or they go on your site and buy something, and happy days, money has gone in your till. You don't know who they are. You're kind of not too fussed because they've taken some stock off your shelf. Okay. Like the old-fashioned newspaper shop, people would come in, they'd give the money for the newspaper, they'd walk out. And over time, if that was a frequent customer, a relationship would build. They would become a long-term customer. Maybe the chap behind the counter would say, oh, I don't know, give you a free Sunday paper because you walk in every day. But to me, customers are people who come in and buy and you don't know who they are. I like to have clients. I do know who my clients are. I do know about them. I do know why they buy from me. And I do know why they're going to come back, because I make jolly sure they do. Let me give you another example. A garden, kind of, garden centre type place. And I'm there and I need a new lawnmower. Although I might leave it till spring now because I think I've finished cutting the grass. But I need a new lawnmower. And I've got quite a big garden. So I go, and of course my wife likes to trip out. Yeah, I'll come with you to the garden centre, Charlie. I choose a lawnmower. And the fellow there, quite a helpful chap actually, he says, oh yes, hello sir. I've got a big garden. I do like those English stripes that we are so proud of as a nation of gardeners. And he asked me how big my garden is, and he tells me, well, that's the one you need there, sir. That's whatever it is. Let's call it a Honda Super Mower. All right, how much is that? £650, sir. What? He said, oh yes, but remember, it does everything you wanted it to. You wanted stripes, you wanted it self-powered, you wanted a big grass box. That does everything for you, sir. Okay. Because every time he told me, he asked me a question, he said, yes, it will do it. Internally, I'm squeaking. Oh, good. Oh, good. So he's got me. So that's a lawnmower. And then, of course, my lovely wife says, oh, those topiary things. Can we have a pair of those by the front door? Certainly, madam. Yes. What would you like? Do you like this one, that shape? Da, 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 da. So she has a couple of those, and you know what? This place knows how to charge. They're 125 quid a pair. And the salesman can see that I'm wincing, and he can see my wallet is clamping closed. And he says to my wife, "Oh, madam, can I give you some clippers so you can keep those things outside your front door in beautiful shape?" So my wife beams back at him and says, "That would be lovely." And of course, he's got me, hasn't he? He's told me all the benefits and he's given me something. So the point of this is, how do they record it? Is it garden centre, one sale for whatever the numbers add up to, £775? Thank you very much. Take your card. Thank you. Goodbye. Or is it, do you mind if I take your name, sir? And can I take your postcode? And I'll take your email. Right. Thank you very much, sir. And they itemise one lawnmower, a couple of fancy bushes, and a free set of clippy things. Their stock control will now work because they know what they've sold. If they want to build a relationship with me, they could 1 week later say, "Oh, Mr. McClelland, how's your lawnmower?" They'll get two answers, won't they? "It's fine," or "I can't get it started." And whichever answer I give, they can be ready to respond. "Glad to hear it, sir. Shall we pick it up at the end of the autumn to give it a first service?" Boom. And again, the care home example. The people I spoke to the care home, I said, "So how do you get a relationship with the council?" "Oh, we don't really. They're not, I'm sorry but they're not very easy people to deal with." So fix it. If you've won the tender, you say, "Thank you very much, blah, blah, blah." When you've been delivering your service for a small amount of time, a week, a month, whatever's appropriate for the tender, you contact the tender issuer, the procurement person, say, "Hiya, Charlie here. Thank you for the contract. You know we're working on it. It's been running for a month. How's it going?" Because if you do that, you'll get the same response. It'll go one of two ways. "Well, I'm glad you rang, Charlie, actually, because Mrs. Goggins at number 72, she said she's been missed out, and I didn't really want to ring you, but I hope it doesn't happen again." "Oh, one moment. Well, our records say there was somebody there. In fact, I can tell you the time we started. I can tell you the time we left. Would you like me to send you a copy of our records?" No, that's fine. Thanks, Charlie. That's fine. In fact, shall we do better than that? Shall we take a picture of Mrs. Goggins and her clock every time we arrive, or we can just put that in our weekly reports to you? Because bless her, she's quite old, and I think she's a bit forgetful. I think she's just forgotten we went, and that's why she told you. Oh, great. So what's just happened there? You've solved a problem that you didn't know existed. You've told your supplier, the person who's granted you the tender response, "We're on top of this and you don't need to worry. You can still give your patients to us without worrying. And when that tender runs out, if you do that on a monthly basis, they will know how good you are and you will be top of the pile when the next tender comes out." So whoever you tender to, I'll put it to you, you can build a relationship with that tender issuer. So, big questions to ask. What sort of relationship do you want? What sort of relationship do they want? Do you know who issues the tender? Do you know who's going to read it? Have you done anything before? Can you show an existing relationship? Things to think about when you're producing a tender. So, next one. Key activities. So, you know you have to do something. You have to provide care. So what does that mean? You need X number of people, properly qualified, proper uniforms. The uniforms need laundering. They'll be in cars. The cars may need to have like the magnetic panels on the side. I don't know. Whatever you do, you will have needs, activities. People will need to be on time. You might need to have stock deliveries coming in. There are things that you need to do. And for the majority of small businesses, it's in the head of the business owner. Yeah, well, that's fine. We can do that. Yeah, we can cope. And I suggest to you, up your game. Spend a bit of time thinking about it, because especially in these volatile times with prices moving all over the place, if you haven't thought of everything, like, oh, I forgot about the laundry bill because actually they wear clean uniforms every day, and that's, oh wow, that's going to eat into the profits. So whatever it is that you need to deliver as an activity, make sure you've got it written down. If it's a key activity that's important, understand the resources that make the key activity happen. If you won the tender now, today, this afternoon, could you deliver? Or would you need to hire more people? Would you need to get more vehicles? Would you need to buy a new piece of machinery? Would you need bigger premises? What would the impact be to the key activities that you would have to perform because you've won the tender? Is it you doing deliveries? Do you need to take on a courier? How's it going to work? How is it going to work? If somebody's off sick, what's going to happen? So make sure you've got all these things covered, because if you can evidence that in your response, then people would say, wow, these guys got it all covered. I can see they have a slick system. Yeah, Charlie squeak, good. I like someone that's got a slick system. They know what they're doing. I can trust them. All emotional things that have nothing to do with the what you deliver, but it's how you deliver it. So key resources, these are normally divided up into two sorts. Oh, sorry, I'm a slide ahead of you. Key resources, these are normally kind of divided into 2 or 3 bits. So there are physical things that you typically buy or make, and they might need their own plant, machinery and space. And then there might be people who design things, do things, respond to clients, take phone calls, but you just need to make sure that your resources are adequate to perform the activities. So they might be subbed out. So as we said before, you might subcontract some of your manufacturing, you might subcontract out some of the staff. Like in the care world, it's very common that they use bank nurses, so they allow a certain percentage of bank nurses to be expected to be used when other people are off sick. So it doesn't matter where the resources come from, just understand how many you need to be able to comply with the tender. So at one level, it's simple, what do I need? But at the pressurized tender world, if I win it, who can help? How can I get it done most cost effectively? Do I need to ramp up? Do I need to have things I haven't got today? What would I need to do if they said yes and I won the tender? And so that takes us on to partners. Partners are people where you would have usually more than a formal agreement. So you may use a recruitment company, and you might use them once in a blue moon and say, oh, I need a chap, I need someone for this, and you say thank you and you wave goodbye. Or a recruitment person might be a key partner to you, because if the labour goes up or if things happen, you need to reliably get staff in place on a certain day at a certain time. So the person who supplies that staff to you becomes a key partner, because without them, you will not be able to be successful. So key partners are ones who are an integral part of your tender response, and you buy that service in. And so you generally have good relationships with your key partners. So generally, the reasons for partnerships are, well, it's a good fit. They do bits I don't do. Like if you deliver things, you might decide Royal Mail or somebody is a key partner because they can get your goods to where they need to be on time pretty much every time. They're pretty reliable. And what you're doing is reducing your own risk of something not happening when it should. And therefore that reduces uncertainty. So you can sleep better, and you can evidence to the person who's going to read your tender that you've got this all under control. You have purposefully thought about it, and you've got the answers, and you know how it's going to work. So the questions you'd need to ask are, oh, Who are they? I've never really thought about it before. Do I just have one of each, or do I have two suppliers for really important stuff? Yeah, good question. I need to think about that. Okay, yeah, no, I'll think about that before I write the answer down on my tender. So the big question, if you win it, can your partners cope? Will they say, "Oh my God, I can't take any more work. Charlie's lovely, thank you, but oh my God." Or can you pre-warn your partners, your key partners, and say, "Look, I'm bidding on a tender. I'd like you in with me because I love what you do." It will mean, I think, that you'll need to get some more staff. But if you've got more staff and it increases your business substantially, can you do me a better price? Because this will be run rate. This will be bread and butter business for you. So this will keep your business churning whilst you go for the other bits, won't it? Oh, yeah. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. So again, something to think about. How do you do what you do better with the people you do it with better so that it's a win-win-win? And the essence of the win-win-win goes into the tender document so you can win it. So costs, kind of obvious really, but what do you have to pay for what you do? What are your fixed costs? Are they reducible? Will they go up? Which resources are more expensive? Can you tweak them? Can you go back to the people who charge you for those resources and see if you can get a better deal for winning a substantial tender and giving them a substantial amount of business? So there's lots of things we can talk about there, but they're much better covered under the one-to-one. But much more importantly, if I win it, am I sure I can make a profit? Especially in these volatile times, if it's a 2-year contract, have I got any clue where prices will be in 2 years' time? Can I put a clause in that says, these are our current prices, but we reserve the right to put them up according to the retail cost of index over the life of the contract? What are you going to do to make sure the money you get in continues to cover your costs over the lifetime of the tender contract? Or can you demand your people to give you fixed price? If you say, yeah, this is a 2-year job, I want a fixed price now, I'd suggest, by the way, that you avoid fixed prices without a caveat. In other words, you are putting caveat in there, unless it's really quite a short tender, because there are unfortunately well-documented cases of builders who have done some really great jobs for people, fixed price, and they haven't been able to deliver because the cost of bricks and raw materials has gone sky high, and it was done on a fixed price deal. So the client was very happy and said, well, I need you to finish it for the price you said. And the builder is saying, oh, but that's really hard because stuff's gone up. Well, sorry, you did give me a fixed price tender, and that's the basis why I accepted it. So be very, very careful in these current times to figure out how do you look after yourself and your business. Do you remember the title, Sustainable Tendering? This is a massive, massive part of that. The other thing we said about ESG. So you've got on the left there, you've got the business model canvas, which is kind of all the techie stuff, but you need to look at it from a different perspective here. There's the money level, yes. There's the environmental layer or level. How does what you do affect the environment? How does the way you run your business affect your local social ecosystem? So there are many small businesses who say, well, we sponsor the local football club, we buy their kit, we do this, we do that, we do the other. So as a business, it needs to run through your spine that says, oh yes, we help the environment. We've already had the electrical survey that says change to LED light bulbs, make your business more efficient energy wise. So make sure that you can say we've already done all of that. We are changing our fleet to electric vehicles, not because of you, Les, but because it's a better thing to do. So when you're able to say we are a business that does the better thing to do, then especially local councils will say, well, that's good. And if you have a local organisation, or you do something that most people would call charitable, you support something, then that ticks the box for the social layer. So if you have those boxes ticked, again, you know, you might just get a little tiny Charlie squeak that says, oh, good, yeah, they covered that. Yeah, yeah, thanks for letting us know. Yeah, that's good. Nothing to do with your core business, nothing to do with what the tender is about. But if you say, yes, we can tick all those boxes, we do all of those things, absolutely, we look after our people, of course we would consider anyone who wants to come and work here, and you can tick yes, 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 yes to all of those and give evidence of how you do it in your tender, you will be ahead of other people. So you get the commercial stuff right, and you show the impact on your local economy and local people. So, and the best way to do that is to read their ESG policy, and then you can put expressions in like we care for our local environment, and they'll say, oh, good, they're one of us. So the more you can do that, and the more you can evidence it, the more you'll get Charlie squeak, the tick in the box, the thing that puts you on the maybe pile. So what we've done now, and I'm sorry I'm running slightly behind, is we've shown you the business model canvas. We've said the value proposition is linked to who you talk to. We've said that the channels are how you talk to them. We've said that you build relationships with the customers that you win, and you will get money because you've given them an undeniably brilliant value statement that talks to the benefits they want to see delivered. You've checked you can do it, you know the resources you need to know the partners that can deliver your key activities. Your resources may be needed to be delivered by key partners, and you've got that covered, and you know how much all of that costs. So you know that you'll make a profit, and it will be a sustainable tender response. So that kind of ends the formal bit, and we go into all of that in much more detail in the one-to-ones. So I'd say in a minute, book one, stick it in the chat if you're interested. And if we just take you through a couple of case studies, this one was somebody who wanted to do pallets. They came on the course and we said, we'll do this, do this, do this. And now, as you can see here, they said it was absolutely brilliant. You can see that they now had different products because they only used to collect good pallets, and now they collect broken ones. They turn it into firewood. They make one good pallet out of 2 old ones. They even sell them for like funky DIY projects. So yeah, these are markets that people hadn't thought of. They got their own vans so that they could deliver them, rather than demanding people brought it to them. And it's a massively successful business that grew from nearly nothing. And this second one, Sarah was actually one of my people, and she was a cleaning contractor that worked for the facilities people. So if you've got a big office block, there'll be a facilities management company who'll say, we look after everything for you. And they get tendered. And she was never, ever part of the tendering response system. And she said, when the FM company go, I lose a contract for that whole tower block for cleaning it. So I said, well, build a relationship with the customer, not the person who pays you, the customer, so that when the FM management company goes, the new tender says, and you have to use Sarah at JL Cleaning. So again, once you understand how the customer wants it to work, you make sure you are in the right place. And again, she's delighted now because she can charge more than she used to charge the FM companies, and she has strong relationships with the people who occupy the buildings, and they're the people that want a good cleaning job done. So where do we go from here? Well, it's a suggested 3 things to do. Book a one-to-one chat, have a look at the recording of today's, and try and build your own business model canvas for yourself, and obviously get us to help you during a one-to-one that you've booked. So it's a strategic tool. It shows you how to create value and be able to evidence it. And by using the right language, you will be able to appeal to any customer in any segment that you choose. So it's a good starting point. We'd love to take you further through it. And yeah, we'll skip that. I think we've done that in the essence of time. We are here on the 12th of October. You can see this is the remainder of the programme. And the one-to-one sessions are bookable now. We can do them from now going forwards. What happens there is we'll ask you lots of questions. By its definition, it's one-to-one, so it is not public. It's just between you and the person you're having the conversation with. They will be a skilled business advisor, and they will really help you in your business. So I'm sorry, I've actually run over. It's 12 o'clock. I'd like to hand back to Tracy so that she can wrap up and hopefully not go too far over 12 o'clock. Tracy.
Yeah, thank you, Charlie. I think everyone will agree that lots and lots of useful information there. Learned one or two things myself, Charlie. So thanks for that. So yeah, if you've already had a one-to-one with myself or one of my colleagues, then we may have discussed some of these points, and you may need to book in for your next one-to-one. If you've had both your one-to-ones, then let's just continue the conversation, and we're more than happy to help you with your model canvas. And just keep in touch, and we're here to help you and support you. As you can see, we've got other webinars coming up from now through to next spring, and we just really want to help you really just develop the business, the whole proposition, and get you out there in winning some great bids. So yeah, do keep in touch. There's the other courses here you will see, the webinar, sorry, there's the link there to book onto the others, one next month and one in December as well. And yeah, keep in touch with us, we'll keep in touch with you, and let's get this Watford Fit to Bid really moving and moving forward. So thanks for your attendance today.